All right, YouTube, we're gonna start this video with a story. So I sat down, I recorded a deck tech with a Magecraft deck, a Chain of Smog combo deck. I went to combo off for the first time in game one, round one, and realized that my combo didn't actually work. So we scrapped that video, and now we're recording with something else. So, hello, folks. Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU, here with the legacy video sponsored by Cardsphere.com. And instead, we are going to be playing with Mono White Painter today, which has been given the nickname Plumber. And thank you very much to Evan S. for supporting the donation that inspired this video. Many of you are probably familiar with the Painter's Servant and Grindstone combo by now, which mills out your opponent. But this version is much less common, mostly focused on by one or two people in the Painter Discord. Shout out to them, they're great. Check it out if you're really interested in digging deep into some of the Painter stuff. This version has some things like Aetherwild to put in the creatures uncounterably, and a source of card advantage in the form of Ingenious Smith. When it ETBs, you look at the top 4 cards of your library, you can reveal an artifact and put it into your hand, the rest go on the bottom. And then once per turn, when one or more artifacts enter the battlefield under your control, you can put a +1/+1 counter on this. So it's kind of like a Baleful Strix, I guess, is a decent comparison. It's a body that also draws you a card, and it can scale up and maybe become like Tarmogoyf sized if the game goes on long enough. And the idea with playing mono white is you get access to a really good search option and toolbox option in the form of Oswald Fiddlebender, which is a birthing pod, but for artifacts. And Mother of Runes allows you to get protection for creatures, while Esper Sentinel serves as attacks for your opponents and draws you some cards. So overall, you are still a Painter Grindstone deck, and you can still do some of the things that that deck does, like steal games with Urza Saga, or like play a turn 1 Urza Saga, turn 2 Painter, have a turn 3 killed. You can still do all of that, but the idea is that this is more resilient and more toolboxy. We do have a spicy card in here that you might not know. Skrelv Defector Mite. So this has Toxic 1, which means that if it deals combat damage, you get a poison counter. It can't block, and it has a Mother of Runes ability. Or a Phyrexian white, which you can pay with 2 life or a white mana. Another target creature you control gains Toxic 1, and more importantly, hexproof from that color until end of turn. It can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. So that's kind of what you're playing instead of Mom number 4. Sideboard has a couple of spicy things in it, such as Hallowed Moonlight, which is primarily for creature tokens, oddly enough. Until end of turn, if a creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. So while this can be hate for something like Reanimator, it can also serve the purpose of stopping Urza Saga tokens, or stopping some Blink nonsense, or whatever. Otherwise, another somewhat spicy card is Hushbringer, which is a Torpor Orb stapled to a flying lifelinking fairy. And we also do have March of Otherworldly Light. Exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment with mana value X or less. I'm not the biggest fan of this card. I played it in another deck recently and it felt kind of clunky to me, but we'll see how it does today. We are a mono white deck list, so we do have some limitations in terms of what we can actually remove. Yeah, so without further ado, I'm already about 40 minutes behind schedule, so we're going to go ahead and jump directly into the match here. If you're new and you like what you see, please consider subscribing, and if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. It is the easiest way to support my content for free. Oh yeah, and Pat, sorry, your donation with Mercurial Spelldancer and Chain of Smog is coming, it's just coming later. Let's battle. Okay, Magic Online got me my play points back already. Good stuff, Magic Online. Alright, I'm going to keep my hands back. Hands back. Keep hand. Hand good. I got my play points back. Personal Tutor. This is Doomsday that we're playing against. I have some respectable cards to interact with my opponent here. I have a Canonist. Hope is interesting. I think I just start by wastelanding my opponent and hoping that they do not have Dark Ritual. Fuck me. What a blowout. Sure. I mean, it still gets rid of the land, to be fair, but... Ugh. Okay, no immediate Dark Ritual. Let's go land. Probably Hope over Soul Guide Lantern. Neither's particularly likely to do anything. I'll drop a Mox Opal, and this can only be sacrificed if I deal combat damage to my opponent. I guess kind of my hope here is that I can get a Canonist down next turn while dropping an Urza Saga, and then just threaten my opponent's life total enough that I can beat a Doomsday that's played out next turn while a Canonist is in play. Probably want to exile that Edge of Autumn from their graveyard so they can't use it in a Doomsday pile. Alright. Did not dodge the extra mana here. Okay. So, my opponent does have the Edge of Autumn. I go ahead and play Urza Saga. I will drop a Canonist. Guess I could have attacked with Hope. Sacked Hope immediately. This can never be countered. Okay, there's a cycle. Yeah. Let's attack with Hope. That brings my opponent to 5. If I sack, I can put them to... Like, I can buy a turn. It doesn't really do anything, though. Yeah, I think I was supposed to attack with Hope, sack it, and then play Canonist. It's, like, awkward, because then I can't Soul Guide Lantern for Metalcraft. I die sometimes for not sacking here, but then I lose my clock. I fucked this up. Alright. I should have done this earlier. I just had a better line that I did not take. This gives me a redraw towards another card. Okay, there's Edge of Autumn. Am I just gonna lose anyway through it? Yeah, I am just going to lose anyway through it. Okay. My opponent only cast one spell that turn anyway, so they just like beat the Canonist anyway. Fuck. So Hushbringer is great versus Thassa's Oracle. Most of this stuff doesn't really do anything. March can technically do some stuff. I'm not excited about Crucible of Worlds here. I'm not really excited about Portable Hole either. I might leave one in the deck to tutor for with Oswald Fiddlebender. Yeah, I don't love my options here. I like my opponent's side of the matchup quite a bit. I think I keep this. If my opponent plays around the tax, like, their game goes very slowly. And if they don't, I get extra cards to try to make this hand better. It's possible I'm supposed to just go and mulligan for a hand that kills on turn 3 or earlier. I think I get a little wiggle room on the play. Okay, I mean, I got a 2-for-1 with that. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and play out an Opal. If I were to get Thought Seized, I do not want to lose the artifact that I can weld away with Oswald to start doing cool things. Okay, sure. Personal Tutor finds Doomsday real fast. Portable Hole has no targets currently. I'm going to start Fiddle Bending. We'll see if my opponent can cast the Doomsday this turn. I can start doing neat things with Fiddlebender on my next turn. Okay, so my opponent doesn't immediately have it. I don't want to draw more Oswald Fiddlebender. Okay, this is weird. I'm gonna cast a Portable Hole. No targets. That's just an artifact. I go ahead and sack a Portable Hole. Find Painter Servant. Turn everything into one color. Next turn, weld Opal into Grindstone and kill. That sounds pretty good. Let's tint everything red here. Oh, I don't have Metalcraft. Mox Opal isn't a mana source yet. Karaka's being legendary here, so I can't make that land drop is super awkward. Okay. Good to know. Realizing that mistake, I should have just gotten Aethersworn Canonist and slowed the game down. Let's see if my opponent Doomsdays. Alright, there's a Dark Ritual. And a Doomsday. Alright, Doomsday has occurred. We'll see if my opponent wins this turn, or if I get another turn. There's an Edge of Autumn to draw. Ideas Unbound. Great Wraith, 0 cards left. This is just Petal, Thassa's Oracle. Yeah, so I lose this one for not going for Canonist on my turn to slow things down. And I would have gone for Canonist if I realized that Mox Opal wasn't on. So that is a objective mistake on my end. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Cardsphere.com. Cardsphere is a service that allows you to buy, sell, and most importantly, trade your Magic cards with other people and game stores from around the world. As you can see here, they are doing a lot of business. They only take a very small fee, 3%, and if you decide you want cash instead of cards, you can also get paid out via PayPal for a small cut. P.S. They also have articles, so please consider checking them out. This is a reasonable hand of Magic the Gathering cards. I have Wasteland Crucible. I also have Urza's Saga Crucible. We probably get paired against a Life from the Loam deck where like Wasteland locking them out of the game isn't the thing that's gonna happen. Okay. Hand sucks. Everything's ruined. Nothing will ever be good again. Alright. I'm so absolutely screwed if my opponent has a Wasteland. And Snuff Out. Wild. Okay. Loam's fine. Anyway, if my opponent has Wasteland or finds it, then my whole Urza Saga game doesn't really get to happen the way that I want it to. And so like this next turn cycle is a really big one where my opponent either finds a Wasteland and basically wins this game on the spot, or I have a chance to pull really far ahead. Okay, no Wasteland. F. That's a disaster. Yep. This game is basically over now. It takes a while, but I probably can't win this game from here. Like, I have no artifacts to weld away with Oswald Fiddlebender. My opponent has recurring Blast Zone as a thing that they can do. It is really hard for me to win. I'll attack for 2. This is primo feel bad territory. I can stop a Merit Lodge once with a Caracas if my opponent goes that route. Okay. There's a battlefield, search your library or graveyard for a non-human creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield. Where X is 2. I'm guessing that goes and finds a Vampire Hex Mage. Okay, it does. I can get a 1-drop if I play Ancient Den. Pithing Needle's not great right now. Soul Guide Lantern, though? Soul Guide Lantern nuking Loam sounds pretty nice. My opponent can just rip the counters off of this and turn this into an 8/8 dinosaur. It's legendary. I can bounce it back to their hand. That's the thing. Alright. Float mana. Sacrifice this. If my opponent responds by making an 8/8 dinosaur, they do. So, oh, and that gets cast. Cast it, transformed. Got it. Now I will find Soul Guide Lantern. Eat Life from the Loam. Already made my land drop. Like, do I want a card or do I want an artifact in play? Artifact in play. Ow. I'm happy for my opponent, though, honestly. Yep. Stop. Just stop. Just stop. Oh. Not really where I thought that was going. But it makes sense. At this point, where Oswald Fiddlebender never gets to activate again, I now sack this to draw a card. Okay. The Mom. Them recasting this is just kind of a pain in the ass, but I need to stop the 8/8 dinosaur that otherwise is going to just murder me. So bounce, play Mom, pass. Opponent's deck is cool. That is just strategically an incorrect decision there. So if you have a wasteland and you're going to wasteland a tapped land anyway, you can pretty much always just wait to do it on your turn when you have more information. And my opponent may have found themselves in a spot where they could just go and do something differently with that extra mana. So now they recast this, getting a new Vampire Hexmage. Caracas has been wastelanded. 8/8 Dinosaur. Backside Trample? No, it has Reach. Okay. I think I'm going for Urza Saga and Painter. How about everything's blue? Call it a turn. Alright, they're getting their 8/8. And I'm going to have to try to combo off. This Urza Saga, in theory, never gets to activate. Like, my opponent can just find a wasteland to take this out. Sure, that's fine. That's a Horizon Canopy land. That'll just cycle for a new card. Yep. Okay. I'll block this. I'll activate Mom. Get protection from green. I'll take 3 damage. What? Oh, hold on. There's more words here that I didn't read. For each non-human creature you control, you may have that creature something it wasn't blocked. I can't move this box to see what that other text is. Noted. I didn't finish reading that card. I wouldn't have had a win next turn anyway if I blocked with Painter. Yep, okay. Okay, noted. Removal in, Soul Guide Lanterns in. What's the exact text of this? Creatures entering the battlefield. Okay. Do I want Ley Lines? Do I want March? March is probably good enough. This is just 1 mana answer to Merit Lodge. I need to go see what that noise was. I'll figure out my sideboarding first and then check. That's out. Oswald Fiddlebender is awkward. I go down 1 protection effect. I go down some vials. Retrofiter Foundry doesn't seem super necessary. Okay, I did not figure out what the noise was. This is a decently interactive hand. I'm going to go ahead and keep this. I don't love that this is wastelandable. That's probably my biggest initial problem with this hand. I don't think I let my white source just immediately get wastelanded. And we're just going to blind lead on this naming Vampire Hexmage, since that combos with both Dark Depths and whatever the battle card is called. I don't want to leave this in hand and then have it get thought seized away. That would be very awkward for me. Oh no. Is this just an insane Life from the Loam hand? It is. So my wasteland gets wastelanded. And I am just immediately in trouble. I have no basic planes. Life's bad. Life is really bad. There's a dredge. Yeah, and then I get wastelanded as well. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I can't realistically win this game. Like, just from the get-go, like, I've shut off a portion of my opponent's combo. Oh, there's Dark Depths. Yeah. I am very confident that I just get, like, wastelanded again. My opponent's Dark Depths. Yeah. I'm gonna take another. That doesn't even really matter, right? Like, I stop it once, my opponent Life from the Loams, they just do it again. I am comfortable moving on here. That's not happening. GG's. Okay, I have 2 colorless lands here. I can play Retrofitter Foundry into Painter. That's not really appealing, and like I will have 3 dead cards in my hand afterwards. I would rather just ship that. This is a weak opening hand that I will keep, I think, pitching Wasteland. I am very much not in love with this hand, but I have a good turn 2 play versus a control deck. I have a good turn 2 play versus a combo deck. Straight up basic planes and pass. Do I want to Esper Sentinel? No? I want to do this. I'll play the Smith. and just cantrip immediately. Fuck me, apparently. Alright. I will play a Mox Opal to trigger this. Yield to that. Mox Opal, unfortunately, is not turned on right now. I will be passing the turn. Alright, no immediate Swords to Plowshares. Oh, are we doing initiative things? Maybe. This kills next turn if I want to go that route. And I think I do. I'm going to go ahead and cast an Esper Sentinel. That triggers this to turn it into a 3/3. I'll go ahead and battle on in. Fantastic. Then I'll go ahead and play Painter's Servant. Why doesn't everything become green? Mox Opal is now on, but I'm 1 mana short of Canonist. I have a Grindstone that can just kill my opponent next turn in theory, but like Solitude is a card that exists. I'm not sure that I actually want to try to kill my opponent next turn. What are we doing? Oh shit, it's like Eldrazi. White Eldrazi. That's a deck that I haven't seen in a hot minute. So, do I try to kill my opponent this turn? And okay, I think I don't go for the Painter kill this turn. I think I go ahead and make the artifact token. And I've got a good story that I'll tell at the beginning of the round. You might have noticed my clock went down quite a bit. I figured out what happened with the crazy noise. Right. Find a Grindstone. I think this is just mana at this point. Like, it's a reasonable removal spell, but I shouldn't need it. Like, my Construct token is bigger than Thought-Knot Seer. My Ingenious Smith will continue to scale up. I think the mana is more valuable here. Because I would like to be able to deploy cards. 6 mana? Oh, okay, sure. That was fine. Like, I was already playing around that. That's all good. That's very good. Am I fine with attacks? Not really fine with attacks. I think I try to drag this game on. I think that just greatly favors me if I just wait this out. Like, I'm winning the defensive war here. And I've probably knocked my opponent off a lot of playables. Like, Oswald Fiddlebender becomes incredibly good on this board. Any artifact just means my attacks become good again. That is not great for me, though. That means that I have to pivot into an aggro role. I grindstone my opponent here. Sure. Yeah, oh, it's red-white. That has kind of changed my evaluation on some things. There's a new grindstone. I will play that because it buffs 2 of my creatures. Now I have 2 5/5s. And at this point, I'm fine shipping those in. I don't really think I can just, like, continue to wait here. Oh, that is 2 chumps. One of those draws me a card. Ooh, that's a painter. I am going to play that now because I don't have the mana to play it and activate it next turn in the same turn cycle. Unfortunately, this is going to let my opponent know that they probably need to scry. Everything can become green. I'm at 21, so I'm at a healthy life total to boot. Okay, they are going for the scry. All right, there's a spirit guide for red mana. What is this? Backup. This creature enters the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. That's another creature. Gains the ability to sacrifice this creature. It deals damage equal to its power to any target. Sure. So this is just creating an exceptionally large body. That's fine. All right. Card good. I guess it's allowing my opponent to have an out to painter. I guess the answer is yes, but then I get to attack in and hold initiative, and that's probably not great for my opponent. So let's play an Ingenious Smith. I can find an artifact to pump my team. Ingenious Smith is not having the best hits today. Okay, we have more interaction. Okay, am I getting... Okay, I am getting both of those +1/+1 counters. I think I'm just sending it all here. Fine, trading 1 for 1 if that's a thing that my opponent wants to do. Okay, I imagine then they sacrifice this to kill Esper Sentinel. Or not. That seems like a misplay to me. Grab a land. Pass the turn. I'm not missing anything, right? Sacrifices creature, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. Yeah. That could have blocked here and taken out Esper Sentinel. Alright, floating mana. There's a Thought Knot Seer. That's just a 4/4. That doesn't get to take a card here. That is effectively just a chump blocker. And I'm going to continue to grind my opponent at the end of turn. They're clearly playing a little bit of a red-white initiative brew. I just want to see what other stuff I see. Okay, cool. So I learned about Archon. Yeah, my opponent showed me extra cards there. I think they should have conceded in response to that if their hand doesn't have extra removal. So I learned about Fable and Archon, and I also learned that they're playing this card in multiples. I got a lot of I got a lot of information there. Hushbringer is great at stopping initiative. Will absolutely play swords. Hallowed Moonlight is a thing that I could do to stop the tail end of the initiative. I don't think I'm interested in that. March of Otherworldly Light is a pretty shitty removal spell versus this sort of stuff that's going on over there. Canonist is pretty weak. That's probably going to be something that I get rid of. Pithing Needle's pretty weak. I technically named that thing that I saw. Soul Guide Lantern's pretty weak. Hope of Garipur is a 1/1 flyer. That's actually not the worst. What about this? A way to force damage through, and it's also just a 1/1 creature that can attack. My combo's pretty good here. That's 5 cards. I need one more cut. Crucible is really slow. Could be that. Crucible Urza Saga is really cool as the game goes on, but I don't think we're going to reach that point. Someone's going to die. This is a perfectly defensible keep. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it. Like, I really just want to Painter combo my opponent. Vile does a lot if played out on turn 1, though, in terms of giving me mana while letting me spend resources on other things. So I think I'm going to keep this one. It's possible this still just ends up being too slow. But, like, if my opponent doesn't have a turn 1 initiative card, which is harder because it takes 4 mana, I can just waste... Oh, they're going to 4. I can just wasteland them, knock them off of their first land, and then play an Aether Vial game. Alright, my opponent is on 4 cards. That's pretty rough. And it seems like I'm going to get to wasteland their first land. That's a great draw. I will do this in their upkeep, as I have no reason to do it on my own turn. Alright, they do have more lands, but I am going to get... Oh, that's great. Now I just play a Painter Grindstone game. I'll go Saga this turn, drop a Vial. Next turn I can play Painter. Following turn I just have Grindstone combo. Ooh, no more lands for my opponent. That's not really where they want to be. So that ticks up. I think this turn I just play out Oswald Fiddlebender and then I Vial in Painter next turn. It incentivizes my opponent to use removal on, you know, air quotes, the wrong card. They have like a Swords or a Solitude or whatever. End of turn, I'm going to go ahead and activate an Aether Vial. I don't have anything. I will go ahead and tick this up. Float a mana. I guess activate a Vial now. Grab Painter Servant. Everything can become green. Have a Grindstone. Play a land. I have the mana floating now, so I do have to attempt this now. Oh, they just Stone Cold had nothing. I mean, they mulled the 4. That happens sometimes. GG. We're going to go into story mode for a minute here. So my doorbell rang a minute ago, and a guy I haven't met yet on my street just came up and was like, "Hey, man, you might have heard a noise a minute ago." And I'm like, "Yeah, I couldn't figure out what the hell it was." He was like, "All right, so it's out on my lawn, right? And I was practicing my golf swing, and I didn't even mean to hit the ball, but I just kind of hit the ball, and it was a really solid hit, and it just like kind of went all the way down, and it like definitely hit your garage door. And I saw you poking your head out trying to figure out what was going on, and I just wanted to like say hello and introduce myself. Not really how I was planning on introducing myself or anything, but you know, just wanted to let you know. You know, if there's any damage, let me know." It was a very funny interaction, and I thought it was worth telling here. All right, on to the next round. Okay, this is not a capable hand. I have no colored mana here. Um, yeah, this is fine. I'm gonna keep this, throwing back one of the legendary Aganjos. Island pass. Not snow-covered island. We're gonna Aganjo into Esper Sentinel. That was good enough for Force of Will. We'll take that. I don't need to Mox Opal right now. There's a Brainstorm from my opponent. Brazen Borrower is a relatively generic card. I'll probably be able to figure out what... Oh, wow. No follow-up land drop here. That's not great for them. I think we're going the beatdown option rather than the toolbox option. I don't have half of my combo yet. Another Force of Will. Pitching Omniscience. Okay, so we got show and tell stuff going on over there. Got it. Okay. Opponent's chilling. I've got more mana. I think I'm interested in Ingenious Smith. An Esper Sentinel. Can't quite make that work yet. I think I take Painter. I will play Retrofitter Foundry as my artifact for this turn. And go ahead and call that good. Alright, my opponent's just stuck. Make an Ancient Den as a land drop. That allows me to attack. Opponent goes to 15. Actually, I want to do this the other way. This turns on Metalcraft. Everything can be black. And now play this and play around Daze or Oswald Fiddlebender. And next turn, I have a Painter Grindstone kill, kind of, but my opponent almost assuredly has Emrakul in their deck. So that probably doesn't get me to where I want to go immediately. I need to look at this. Pithing Needle's reasonable, Canonist is reasonable. Let's go this route. Nice. So that's Pithing Needle. Shutting off that Scalding Tarn. That grows Ingenious Smith. Keep our opponent on the mana bottleneck, attacking for 5. That puts my opponent to 10. I will play Urza's Saga and pass. Then I've got kind of a cool line on my opponent's turn. Brainstorm's fine. There's an Ancient Tomb, a Lotus Petal. Alright, there is a Show and Tell. This is pretty bad. There's an Atraxa. Those are good cards. I guess I should probably pick like something like red in this matchup. This matters here. So my opponent has Emrakul, Flooded Strand, Brainstorm, Atraxa? No, Emrakul. Alright. End of turn. I get to make a token here, which then grows this. There's a new Urza Saga. What the F am I doing with Oswald Fiddlebender? I don't have Expedition Map to find. Is this an artifact? This is an artifact, so I can turn a 0 into Skrelv. Oh, I just have a different kill. Yeah, I just have a different kill. So I turn a... Oh fuck, I don't have the Grindstone yet. I need the Grindstone. I need the Grindstone and then I can get a kill next turn. So play this. Sorcery only. I guess I need to Wasteland this so they can't use it again. Then let's anchor a Servo into a Grindstone. That grows this. Make an Urza Saga Construct token on my opponent's turn. That's all good. That's fine. Yeah, I just have to assemble Graveyard Hate here to exile Emrakul. Yeah, Ponder's fine. Okay, and my opponent kind of sees what's up here. I also just can like make 2 very large Urza Saga tokens and go like the fair route as well. Very happy to take that game. Okay, so if I want to Painter Grindstone my opponent, I need both copies of Soul Guide Lantern. I could cut the Painter Grindstone combo and try to beat Toolboxy, but I'm not really sure that I consistently enough win without it. I think I'm kind of interested in Hushbringers. Definitely interested in Hallowed Moonlight as a blowout card. I might play some Swords. I don't think Crucible's very strong. Don't think Portable Hole has text in this matchup. This is a way to force damage through an Atraxa. That is a situation that can happen. Mom does the same thing. Hope doesn't seem super reasonable here. I am going to get rid of Retrofitter Foundry. It was kind of good that game, but eh. And I'm going to trim one Vial. Wow, I seriously have one Mox Opal in this deck. I have drawn that Mox Opal so much in this league. Yeah, I am perfectly happy keeping this hand. Hallowed Moonlight does stuff sometimes, and I'm gonna kind of hope for those sometimes. I don't like that draw. I'm going to start on the Vial. It's slower in getting my protection online, but represents a lot of mana later on. I'm stone cold dead to my opponent's best, like Ancient Tomb, Show and Tell nonsense here. And I hope they don't have it. After that, I can hold up Hallowed Moonlight. Fuck. Stop. Oh, that's fine. It's not ideal for me, but that's not locking me out of this game because I have Vial. So that ticks up. There's a Soul Guide Lantern. I now can't Wasteland my opponent or cast Hallowed Moonlight, though, so, like, that's a thing. I'll play this one. Play a Soul Guide Lantern. I can cash it in for a card at some point if I need it. Not interested in that yet. What now? Oh. That's not great. Now I'm interested in cashing this in for a card. So let's draw. That's very bad. I'll activate this. Yes. I'll put in a Mom. Meltdown takes out my Vial. I don't have castable cards right now, and Urza Saga is very bad. Yeah. That's rough. I guess I'm holding this back to stop Magus of the Moon attacks. But I am not the biggest fan of this. Sort of a risky. And, okay, yeah, they're not even going to bother. They don't want to expose this to some trick. Anyway, this is sort of a risky keep, in my opinion. Like, I get it, but I'm so dead to the show and tell plan a huge portion of the time. Hey, we're in business. I'm going to cast a Canonist. My opponent hasn't been able to deploy creatures the last couple of turns, and they've had the opportunity to. I'm going to take the risk. There's some risk that they just go sneak attack, activate immediately, and I lose out big time, but otherwise, Hallowed Moonlight is effectively uncounterable on the turns where I need it to be. And I will start pressuring my opponent's life total here. I will happily make this trade. Yep, because I would get to Wasteland my opponent twice immediately. I will now hold up Hallowed Moonlight, though. I now have a clock in play. I don't want to get greedy and miss out. It is so incredibly tempting to just jam more creatures here. But I don't think I am supposed to do that. It's very possible that, like, Hallowed Moonlight is just a fucking trap and I lose this game for not playing out more cards. That's, like, a reason why I'm not the fan of this. Like, it just requires so much of a commitment of resources. Admittedly, this is a, like, Magus of the Moon situation, which is atypical. But it's probably not that uncommon that something like this happens. Okay. So there is now, I have now basically confirmed that my opponent does not have sneak attack plus activate. That's cool, I guess. That maybe means that I should just clock my opponent harder because they are looking for show and tell based stuff. Go ahead and play a Pithing Needle. I will name sneak attack. I don't like my sequencing here, but I am going to go for this now that, like, sneak attack is not a thing that my opponent can do. Okay, cool. That's fine. If I get punished for doing that. All right, nada. At this point, I also just have to worry about my opponent having Omniscience as a thing that they can do. Omniscience is less scary with this. I'm going to hold it up. At some point, I also have to think about, like, Fury. Sure. I would like to protect Canonist here, I think. That is much stronger at stopping my opponent from going off. Alright, still not willing to expose Magus of the Moon to combat. Oswald Fiddlebender's not great right now. I think I just play a new Mother of Runes. And sort of awkwardly, at this point, my attacks probably have to be, like, give Canonist Pro Red attack in. Alright, there's a Lotus Petal. So my opponent has access to blue mana, so they can show and tell. I've dropped Hallowed Moonlight to get this back into play. Super bad. But I think I have to because the Fury is on board, otherwise my opponent just becomes the beatdown. I'll drop Fiddlebender. My opponent has Emrakul. I have outs to that. My opponent's just not attacking. I missed on an out there. I'll concede to the Emrakul. I think I have to play Mom, otherwise my opponent can just start clocking me for 8 and like immediately become the beatdown. It's just kind of frustrating. Alright. I think I win that game if I ignore Hallowed Moonlight and just try to kill my opponent fully. Now I know Magus of the Moon is a thing. Urza Plowshares becomes slightly more reasonable as a way to get rid of Magus and Fury. And go down some vials if my opponent is playing Meltdown. Similarly, I probably go down this. It's a Mom that gets eaten by Meltdown. One more Grindstone? Maybe one more Grindstone. Nope. Turn 1 Plains Grindstone. Turn 2 Smith Opal. This is not actually great at beating what my opponent is bringing to the table. I am straight up keeping a beatdown hand and hoping that it works out. I am going to just deploy a Grindstone here because Metalcraft for Mox Opal is something that is going to matter. Sure, that is not wastelandable. Alright, am I just dead? Not just dead. That's nice. Okay, we're holding that up, I guess. Yeah. Ponder's fine. Yeah, this card feels like a fucking trap. Like, it is so awful for me to never to use mana and just, like, hold this up, but in my deck, I gotta try it. Yeah, like, I can play out a Canonist, or I can hold up Hallowed Moonlight. I'm going to hold up Hallowed Moonlight, but I think this card, in a lot of worlds, has lost me last game, and will probably lose me this game as well. Alright. A lot of mana. It's time. It just sucks if my opponent casts Sneak Attack instead of Hallowed Show and Tell. Like, I will have kind of held up this mana for nothing. And if they have Omniscience, this also just sucks. Alright, it resolved. This is symmetrical, right? Yeah, this is symmetrical. I'll, I guess, put in a Soul Guide Lantern. Okay, we countered a Show and Tell. And we'll exile that. So now I can play out stuff. Painter? Dodge Meltdown for 1 turn, win, after I play Mox Opal. Do I play out Mox Opal now to play around Days? Probably. Sucks a little harder if they do have the Meltdown. Everything can be white. Playing out Opal lets me draw a card with Soul Guide Lantern if that's a thing that happens. Alright, it seems like I am, in theory, good. See what happens in practice. I'll pass the turn here and then make a move in my opponent's upkeep. No attacks. I don't want anything weird to happen. Grindstone, target you. Ooh. Annoying. Well, I'll exile what's there. And then the Emrakul is going to stop this combo from actually happening. Yep. Kind of take a quick look at this. Abrades, Furies. Okay, Urza Saga is a great plan to be playing here. I'm going to start here with Ingenious Smith. I want non-artifact things in play. Alright, find a Canonist. Play an Urza Saga. Play a Canonist? I think I still do play a Canonist despite the fact that it leans into Meltdown a little more heavily. Alright, that was good enough for a Force, Pitching, and a Traxa. That's fine. With my opponent having so few cards now, I'm comfortable with Painter. They're at 16. I am fully at the whims of my opponent's deck. Like, it is just like, can you kill me or not? Yeah, that's fine. I was hoping to play around this by like putting a counter on Ingenious Smith last turn, but the Force of Will combo did Force of Will things. So that's fine. I don't have Metalcraft right now. I have Metalcraft as soon as I activate this, though. Meltdown's so fucking good. It is what it is, though. I just want to scale up my Construct token, because that matters for future turns quite a bit. Magus of the Moon. Yep. And Petty Theft. Annoying. That is a very good sequence of things for my opponent to have. I'll go ahead and play an Ingenious Smith. Guess get Esper Sentinel. I don't know, I can use the other Ingenious Smith to look for another way to exile my opponent's graveyard and take Painter here. Play Caracas. Play Ingenious Smith. Found a new Esper Sentinel. I don't know that I scale up these creatures fast enough to like beat my opponent in combat. My opponent has double island, so Brazen Borrower is castable. I think gaining 6 life with one of these sounds good. Don't know that I'm scaling them up fast enough to do other cool things. You have fucking sure. That's very frustrating. Like, what a perfect sequence of 4 cards to just dismantle everything that I had done this game. That was achieved with no cantrips. Alright. Scale this up by 1. I call it a turn. My opponent gets to Brazen Borrower, end of turn. Go from there. 9 damage. I think just absorbing 6 life when I can is perfectly fine. I don't think I'm trying to get the Fury off the battlefield. I think I'm trying to get lucky and combo through these creatures existing before Brazen Borrower kills me in the air. Drop. Oswald Fiddlebender, I guess. Can't double spell here due to Magus. Have another relevant card? Oh, no. Okay, sure. How do I fucking win this? I don't have an Ensnaring Bridge to find. Because in some of the older builds, that would do it. I guess I chump block with Oswald Fiddlebender. Try to find a Swords to Plowshares, question mark, question mark, question mark. That's not doing anything. Drop an Esper Sentinel. Jump block Fury for another turn. But I'm just in the literal abyss. Okay, sure. That's insane. Alright. I lost. Okay. I don't know if I'm supposed to keep this. Second Aether Vial is essentially a dead card. I don't get Esper Sentinel down on turn 1 to get its taxation effect in as quickly as possible. I don't get to mana to cast Grindstone easily. Like, I could keep this, play Esper Sentinel on turn 1, try to use that to buy time, but this feels like lands and spells that don't win. I get wastelanded, I'm just perma out of this game because I can never activate Grindstone. I can never use an Urza Saga the way it's intended to be used. I am not about that life. This I will keep. I probably just pitch Painter here and try to play a fair game for a while. Ancient Den. Esper Sentinel. Mox Opal. Metalcraft. Into Mother of Runes. The idea being that I then play turn 2 Ingenious Smith and start scaling that up. Womp. Yes. Yep, that's fine. Like, I will lose the... Well, I actually don't know which one my opponent will take without knowing what deck they're on. Both cards do things that are very relevant in Legacy. It's also very hard for me to know whether or not I want to attack with Mother of Runes against this lead. I'm gonna go with no. It's like a lot of it depends on whether or not my opponent is playing Edicts or things like Fatal Push as removal or any removal at all. There is a Thoughtseize. Opponent pays the tax and takes 2 damage. We're not successful in doing stuff. Do I want to tinker? Honestly, I might not. I can just attack my opponent for 3 and play an Urza Saga game. They're at 15. I can pivot into Painter combo later and leave Esper Sentinel in play for now. That sounds perfectly reasonable. Yep. I just think I basically have my opponent's life total reduced to 0 by the time that a lot of stuff that they can do over there matters. Smallpox is fine. Opponent pays the tax. I think at this point I junk Mother of Runes. Junk Ganjo. Mox Opal is still on, so everything's okay in that regard. Go ahead and sorcery speed make this. Swing out for 3. Try to just keep the pressure on my opponent. If they can blow up another one of my lands, they make some headway, but I have 7 power in play. And they are at 8 life. Yeah. Okay, so we are... Oh, there was a Karn the Great Creator discarded there. That's a good catch. We were playing against Pox. I only saw basic swamps. My opponent might have Crucible. That's a thing. My opponent could technically be a splash build. I think I'm interested in a couple of Soul Guide Lanterns in case my opponent has like a sideboard Emrakul or something. On vibes, that feels okay. File is probably good. March is probably good. 4 cards I want to cut. Didn't see very much of my opponent's deck to know what their exact build looks like. Canonist probably isn't insane. It can do some stuff against a Dark Ritual in the early game. Portable Hole is something that I can maybe trim. I probably want to leave 1 no matter what. Like, this can just be a way to clean up a Retrofitter Foundry or something of that nature. Hope's not fantastic, but is a cheap creature to play out to help deal with edicts. I'm not excited about this hand. I vial out Mom into Smith, but if my opponent thought seizes me on turn 1 and I lose Aether Vial, my hand does nothing. And will continue to do nothing forever. Given that risk, I think I just mulligan. I will keep this, probably just pitching the Aether Vial. Hope's not great. Pitch Hope. Hope doesn't get eaten on turn 2 by Smallpox. Alright, Dark Ritual. Liliana. Sure. I'll discard a Wasteland, I guess. Not in the market to destroy this right now. I've got other wars that I need to fight. This is a weird one. I play Retrofitter Foundry on turn 1. I don't know, maybe I don't. Maybe I just play Vile. I could also just play Mom and have my opponent edict it, but that's really bad if they have Smallpox. I don't know. I guess I never want to lose Retrofitter Foundry. I just want it every game ever, and it makes the Liliana more awkward. It's like not great if it just becomes a thing that eats up all of my mana because it ends up like damage neutral versus Liliana. But it's hard for my opponent to defeat artifacts. Yeah, this was one of those things that this line was bad against. Yep. Lily's chilling there. I will go land into Vile. On my next turn, I'll play Urza Saga and start working towards Pithing Needle for that. Ooh, maybe not. Okay, Lily is chilling. Oh, it's not just going turbo there. I would like to get an Ancient Den wastelanded rather than an Urza Saga. Urza Saga just provides so much more value. Okay. All right, we're chilling. I get to start doing this nonsense. Okay, yep. Was expecting that. I believe ultimately I want Vile at 2. I could keep it at 1 for a little while. Ooh, that is mighty interesting. Let's do this. Mishra's Factory could immediately become a 2/2 and block this servo token, so I'm not actually interested in attacking Lily, unfortunately. And they've got an Edict. There's a Sholdred's Edict instead. Sure. It's very good for me if I dodge a Liliana activation this turn. F. Getting a Crucible into play wins this game. Handily. But I don't think I can gamble on the top card of my deck being a land here. I'm going to very sadly discard Crucible of Worlds. This lets me start playing an Urza Saga-based game. Alright. So now let's always no to this and always yield to this. Go ahead and play a Caracas here. Call it a turn. Again, no good attacks versus the Mishra's Factory as of right now. Okay, I will sacrifice a creature. That is fine. I get to Pithing Needle this Liliana, and then just kind of like normally move on with my life. I'll draw. I'll activate this. I could get saucy and Pithing Needle Mishra's Factory, but I don't know that that is actually correct here. We're just going to go ahead and name Liliana. I'll now swing at my opponent with a 5/5. No immediate edict. Play a new Urza Saga. Call it a turn. There's a Takenuma. And we're chilling again, which very much favors me. These are 6/6s. With Vile, they are 7/7s, which puts my opponent into chump block territory with Mishra's Factory. That is fine. I am not actually going to go and activate an Urza Saga here. I know it deals 1 more point of damage to my opponent, but I want to play around something wild like Swamp Damnation and be able to make an Urza Saga token end of turn. And we have gotten the GG from my opponent. And that just brings us to a 2-3 finish in this league. All right, so that's it. We're at the end here. Overall thoughts on the deck list. I don't like it. I don't feel like this deck is one of the better painter builds that I've played recently. There's a couple things I don't like about it. Number one, I think Wasteland is awful in this deck. So this deck is maybe not light on white sources, but this deck has a bunch of white 1-drops that sometimes you want to try to play 2 of in 1 turn. And I don't feel like you're a very good Wasteland deck. You have so many mana sinks in things like Grindstone, the cards that you draw off of Ingenious Smith, the Retrofitter Foundry activations. I don't think I want to be losing my lands. Like, especially since Urza Saga is also a disappearing land. Having 2 different lands that disappear feels rough here. Number 2, Hallowed Moonlight, like I was saying, feels like a trap. Like, I know we had a blowout play versus Show and Tell, but this is often going to be too slow to matter. And this is a tap out sorcery speed deck for the most part. Holding up this card turn after turn felt absolutely awful. And it's possible that, like, this card lost me games, even though, like, it was a sideboard card for a matchup specifically. I get that it's flexible. It's just so slow by legacy standards, and I don't think it fits into this deck. If you want to get cheeky and play that in a blue deck that can hold up a whole bunch of interaction, like, that's totally fine. But I am not on board with that as a sideboard slot. I do really like the additional copies of Soul Guide Lantern as tech to fight against Emrakul and such. I think that was very heads up. I feel like a lot of the cards were low impact. Like, Hope was low impact. This was something that didn't like super come up in this league, but it's tutorable via Oswald Fiddlebender, so that's a thing. Ultimately, I wasn't impressed by this exact iteration of the deck. Like, so for example, versus Show and Tell, if I had access to a sideboard and Snaring Bridge, there's a much better chance that I win that game than if I had access to Hallowed Moonlight. I just like could have bought the time I needed to get a win, and my opponent had already blown through an Abrade, I think on a Soul Guide Lantern. Like, I understand that Ingenious Smith and Urza Saga are primary beatdown cards, but like, you are also a Painter Grindstone deck, and you can win through Ensnaring Bridge. I know it's not going to hold forever. I think as a 1-card commitment that you have 4 Oswald Fiddlebenders to find, that seems pretty good. I sometimes felt like my deck was a little slow to get off the ground. Like Crucible of Worlds, for example, I was 1 turn short of that card being very good many times. Maybe that means like 2 Wastelands should become Ancient Tombs or something, and then you play 2 more White Sources or something. I don't know exactly. You don't have that many colorless pips, which makes Ancient Tomb worse. Ultimately, I feel like this one is not quite here in this metagame right now. I've liked this deck before. Today, it just didn't feel good. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please click the like button on the way out. It helps out a lot. I hope you have a great rest of the day. If you have thoughts on the deck building, please throw it in the comments. See ya.